G'day, it's Justin here. And when the Australian Gospel Music Festival, the event that would give rise to Easterfest, got going in 1999, the independent Christian music scenes across Australia were pretty healthy. There was a lot going on in that space, with heaps of Aussie musos diving in and giving it a go. In Brisbane, though, the scene was thriving, with the local indie label Toupee Records bringing together the cream of the crop, like Rhubarb, Battered Fish, Dumpster, Tonjip, Beanbag and Elementary Penguin. Many of the bands on the Toupee roster would enable the growth of AGMF in those early years, so I thought who better to sit down and chat with about that era than the founder of Toupee Records, Jeremy Bennett.
Take your time, please take your time.
Hey, I'm Jeremy Bennett. I'm the founder of Toupee Records, along with Caleb James and Matt Gray, who are bandmates in Battered Fish. I was also in Leonine, which was essentially Battered Fish transformed. And I've been a muso for a long, long time. Let's talk about the 90s.
So I guess Brisbane in the mid-90s, there's this massive explosion of, alt-rock bands like Custard, Screamfeeder, Powderfinger, built off the back of, Triple J coming into the market in the very early 90s. And I kind of became aware of this Christian music scene in Brisbane in the mid to late 90s. I started seeing Battered Fish. I started following a band called Dumpster. There was a heap of other ones. Can you just paint a bit of a picture of that music scene in Brisbane in the mid-90s and, how it got started, how you got involved in it?
Yeah, sure. So I lived in Toowoomba and I grew up there and went to uni there. And at the end of that, I came down to Brisbane. I went along to a church called Glad Tidings Tabernacle, also known as Glad Tidings City Church, more recently known as Hope Centre. So end of 91, I turn up there and the music was unbelievable. I could not believe it. I thought I was hearing Robert Palmer, Simply Irresistible. I'm like, what is going on here? This is incredible. So I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, we need to go here. She was at Northside, which is now Nexus. And so I dragged her away and we were at Glad Tidings. So Glad Tidings, there would be a little bit of a music event down there after each service. And I remember seeing this guy step up to the mic partway through that and sing a song. And I said to him later, he was like 17, I said to him, is that your song? Yes, it is. Do you have any other songs? Yes, I do. You mind if I come over and have a listen? Anyway, that became Battered Fish. But at the same time, there was a bunch of other bands that started at the same time. So including the Tooth Merchants and Tonjip, which was originally called the Martyrs. But that also started attracting other musos as well. So Grant Nelson came up from northern New South Wales. I know he went to see Caleb and said, here are my songs, and Caleb was very impressed. And Grant started a band called Dumpster, so that was sitting within Glad Tidings. So there was this kind of like melting pot of very creative musicians who were not only creative musicians, but just really, really interested, passionate about music, I guess, and quite talented. And they were just wanting to express that. And I think the expression was certainly not evangelistic. It was more artistic, but coming from a Christian worldview. And that's what I would say is the genesis of that time. Glad Tidings Tabernacle, and tied also to an event called Manifesto, which was run by Phil Usher. That was a monthly event. It was a free event initially, but then when it started getting having ticket prices, it started becoming more popular. So those two things in combination really, I think, sparked the scene.
Could you put your finger on why all of these musos were drawn to Glad Tidings? Like, did it just happen, or?
I think it just happened. I just think something like that, there might be just a little bit of a critical mass of people. You might get, if there's one great muso at a place, nothing's going to happen. But if a few start congregating, This was not in any way planned. It just starts happening. So I think the Martyrs / Tonjip was probably that core that was there at the start. I know Wayne Davis, who played for Max Sharam and also Hillsong when he went down to Sydney, like an amazing bass player. He was there at the time as well. You as a muso, if you go along, if you're like, oh, I'm in a new town, I'm going to check out some churches, you'll go to a few churches, and if there's one that's doing something that's really resonating with you, you'll be like, wow, this is my people. I'm coming here. And I think that's the kind of thing that would have happened. It certainly happened to me. That's why I went there. I just could not believe the level of musicianship and the creativity that was coming out.
So you mentioned Manifesto, and then obviously those bands, Tonjip, Dumpster, Battered Fish, are prevalent at that event, and then the scene kind of starts growing, but because I guess there's opportunities for new bands to come in and have somewhere to play. Can you just talk a little bit about the growth, maybe then, of the music scene more towards the late 90s? Because I guess we had Groundswell come on board, and then later on Easterfest.
Yeah.
What were some of those opportunities for new bands that were emerging to play and get their music heard?
Yeah, and that's key. And that's what I think at the time we completely took for granted what we had in terms of the scene and the opportunities. So the Manifesto was monthly. If you were, I hate to say this, but if you were cool enough, you could get onto Manifesto. It was, it was. You didn't have to be amazing. You just had to be good enough to get on there. That's monthly. So there's 12 opportunities a year to play. So the next thing, which was super important, was Nerida coming along and starting Groundswell. And we're like, who's this Nerida person? What is Groundswell? But it was consistent. It was every year, and it was big enough that it could take a lot of bands. So a lot of bands could play at that event. So that was the next thing to aim for. So, hey, we're cutting our teeth. We're playing Manifesto. We're maybe a couple of youth groups here and there that are around the city. Now we're playing Groundswell. And the next big thing that came out was Australian Gospel Music Festival, which became Easterfest. And I remember when that started, Beanbag and Battered Fish got the call up. We went and played at Rumours International nightclub in Toowoomba as part of that. The only other times I've been to Rumours was for my Year 12 formal and for some university exams. So it's pretty cool playing music at Rumours. So that was the next thing. So suddenly, if you were able to aspire and get to that next level of quality, you had another thing to go for. So number one, monthly Manifesto events. Number two, yearly Groundswell, which was very accessible. And number three, a yearly, effectively an international event. It became an international event that you could aspire to.
And I guess another thing to aspire to, especially for I guess, younger musicians like myself, as we were coming through, was there were these events to play at, but then there was also this label called Toupee Records, which you started, and that was obviously a goal of a lot of bands to be good enough to have a release on Toupee Records. Where did you get this idea of creating a label to kind of bring everyone in that scene together? What's that story?
Yeah, sure. So we were doing a recording for what became Megawatt as Battered Fish Megawatt. It was our first electric recording. So we decided we can do this better ourselves. So we kind of like forced the issue ahead of our next album, which was Modern. We did some demos, sent it to the label. Just basically, we thought if we do this, they'll forget about the next option. So we funded Modern ourselves, and we intended to put it out on a record label. Meanwhile, Hoopercon, which is Chris Hetherington and Jason Elliott from Hoopercon, and they had a release coming up, and so that was the first release on Toupee Records. So at this time, it was me, Caleb, and Matt, which are the three guys from Battered Fish. But in the end, I was running it. Caleb was generally I would say the talent scout, because he was producing a lot of bands at the time. He didn't produce Hoopercon, but they were the first on the record label. So that was the reason for the record label, is because we thought we could do a better job, and I think we did.
That was 1998. I think Modern came out very early on in the Toupee story. Then in 1999, you have a massive hit when Rhubarb wins the Triple J Unearthed competition in Brisbane. How important was that win in that competition, and Rhubarb having this massive rise up in popularity? Was that important in the local scene? Did it give other bands aspirations then to do bigger and better things?
I think it just shows what can be possible. Rhubarb, from my point of view, Rhubarb came from nowhere. Like I didn't know the guys. I didn't know where they went, what they were doing, but they came to Caleb and asked, said, "Can you produce our album?" So that's where they came from. And Caleb said, "Look, I think you should put these guys out on Toupee Records," and we did. And it just, as you see, it went massive. I remember them coming to my house and saying, "Hey, have you had a listen to the record? We're going to put in for Triple J Hottest 100. Which song do you think you should put in?" And I can't remember the options they gave me, but one of them was Zero. And I said, "You need to put in Zero." And it was an equal winner. And interestingly, the album came out and we approached Triple J. They approached Triple J and said, "Look, we'd love to do Album of the Week." Triple J goes, "No, our slots are full for the next 6 months. It's not going to happen." And then soon after, they got a call from Triple J saying, "There's been a delay on one of the releases, so we've got a slot for you. Would you like to jump in?" And they obviously jumped in. And Exerciser went on high rotation at that time, and it just blitzed. That hit, I think, number 22 on the Triple J Hottest 100 for the year. Like, ridiculous. Like, way exceeded expectations. We were sending boxes of CDs to Sanity Music, like boxes of CDs. It was just honestly ridiculous. So, look, I think it would be inspiring. We were hanging out with these guys. They could do it, we could too. But I think from a success point of view, music is an interesting thing, because you're creating music that you want to listen to, that you like. Whether someone else likes that, someone who's programming a station or somebody who's listening, that's kind of beside the point. Music is art, after all. It's between you and your band members. So it's a bit fickle, the whole success thing.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of opportunities did AGMF give to, local bands in the Brizzy scene? I guess the scene in northern New South Wales as well. Do you think someone like Isaac Moody had his finger on the pulse of kind of what was happening in Brisbane at the time when he starts that festival?
I think he had his finger on the pulse, at least to a certain extent, because when I know what's going on in the music scene in Brisbane and I get a call from Isaac and he puts on Battered Fish and Beanbag for the first show, it shows that he's got some awareness. Basically, that was I would say the two biggest bands at the time. So to pick the two biggest local bands and stick them on the inaugural Australian Gospel Music Festival, that's pretty smart. And look, Isaac's an amazing guy, like incredible. Like, you see what he's done since Easterfest. So he was certainly had his finger on the pulse.
Do you think as the years kind of went on, bands like yourself or Rhubarb, Dumpster helped the festival grow? I guess they hit a point where they were big enough to attract international bands. Do you see bands like Battered Fish and Rhubarb helping in that success or that growth?
I think so. So like any festival, like when you see a festival, like when you see Laneway Festival come out, you look at the artists that are going and you go, "Oh, that's a great artist. Yeah, I'm not going to go see them." I'm not going to go to the festival to see that one great artist that I really want to see, but, there's two. I might. There's three. I'm absolutely going. If there's three there that you want to see, you pay the money. So I think it's a bit of a cumulative thing. So, and a lot of these bands, they might be big and a lot of people might know them in Brisbane or Northern New South Wales, or they might be smallish, but there's all their friends who want to see them on the big stage as well. So I think it was important for Easterfest to have those bands play, but Easterfest was important for those bands to have something to aim for.
Did you find any bands at the festival that you're kind of turned on to and maybe signed to the label? Was that ever a thing?
No.
No.
The references to the label was for people
Just
I knew,
word of mouth,
or word of mouth, or Caleb, who is producing a lot of stuff. I mean, you've got to remember that if Caleb is producing something, I know that it's going to get to a certain level.
Yeah.
Like you listen to the Elementary Penguin album, like it just, he recorded that at home.
I know, I remember, in his laundry or something.
And it was just incredible. Like I listen to it now, like it's up on streaming now, got it up there so that people can listen to it. And yeah, it's just great. Like the stuff that he has done, it was always of a certain standard. Musically, he's brilliant. So I know musically it's going to be good. Production-wise, it's going to be good. And so if he says, you need to listen to this, it's most likely I'm going to put it on the label.
And what are some of your memories of those early festivals? Because I can remember seeing Battered Fish and then later Leo 9 across multiple festivals. And I think the stages kind of got bigger and bigger each year. I think the first year I saw you guys play on the back of a truck, and then the next year it was a proper stage in a tent. What are some of your memories of AGMF in those days?
I think my memories of the festival are that it was just a really great, I guess, community feel. So you're going around, you kind of know where everyone is at in a way. I mean, they're a Christian music festival. They're most likely Christian, and they obviously love music. So it's a good thing. It was really nice seeing some of the international bands come through. I remember seeing Delirious when Martin Smith had the mohawk. I mean, nobody was doing mohawks in Australia. And here's Martin Smith from the UK with his mohawk, and that was out at University of Southern Queensland. I remember just taking photos through the campsite at early in the morning in the Queen's Park, and just where it's misty, it's just beautiful. I remember being on stage at this stage, Leo 9, and some side of stage guys decided to listen to some music on the side, and it came through the foldback, and we actually had to halt in the middle of the song. I think my favourite memory is playing just before Hillsong United. So this was literally our last gig, our last time we've played. So just so you know, we started off as Battered Fish. We kind of almost gave up, and then we changed our name to Leo 9 and kept going. So this is Leo 9. We've been Leo 9 for about 5 years. Last gig ever. The second last gig was supporting Switchfoot at the Tivoli, and our last gig was just before Hillsong United at the Big Top, and it was just massive, like just a sea of people just really loving the music, and that was a real highlight for me. But one of the other things I really enjoyed about the festival was meeting up with other artists like Aliki Flodine. She was from another part of Australia, and catching up with Brett and Nara from Alabaster Box. They were from the coast. They were awesome.
So it sounds like from the muso's point of view, it's almost a bit of a community thing. Like it's not just the music, it's catching up with other musos you might only see once a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, seeing your favourite artists again. And like I used to always love seeing Dumpster and Tonjip. They were probably my favourite artists on Toupee Records, in terms of musical style that I loved. So seeing them live, it was always good.